We started something called the Wattpad WEBTOON book group. Again, clever naming. I know what you're all thinking.
Surprise inspiration.
I mean, I'm a branding expert. I didn't want to brag.
Hello, I'm Rosie Knight, and I'm here with Aaron Levitz in the Den of Geek studio. Aaron is the president of Wattpad WEBTOON Studios, and I believe Aaron has a cool story to tell us about why.
It's a very cool story of how we came up with the name for the studio. I was running something called Wattpad Studios. I mean, shocking. And we got acquired by this amazing platform named WEBTOON, and they had something called WEBTOON Studios. And we figured, what is better than tens of millions of fans around the world who love our content is bring it all together into one studio with about 176 million fans around the world, taking those fans from the platforms they love and the stories they love onto screens and shelves all over the world. That clever name comes from
a very clever
I don't want to give it away.
Exactly. No, I love that so much. And I guess for people, I could say what Wattpad is. I mean, we know Webtoon, Vertical Scroll, brilliant comics. We've done a lot of great stuff with DC Webtoon at Den of Geek. What is Wattpad as someone who is running the Wattpad Studios? Just the log line for people who don't necessarily know.
Because we all love Webtoon and we know Webtoon, leading webcomic platform in the world, Wattpad is a leading web novel platform in the world. So instead of visual storytelling, it is the written word. You can say, I guess it's in novel-esque form, but it is serialized like a webtoon is. It has its own vibe. It's like a really different experience as you're reading. And that same fan engagement. In fact, on Webtoon, you know, I mean, I live for the comments on Webtoon.
Yeah, me too.
And so like, I'm like, okay, I read it, but like, I want to know what everyone feels about this. But on Wattpad, you don't even get to the bottom. Like the comments are coming in at the paragraph level. So sometimes you can like get into those arguments with your head with those commenters like right then and there in the moment as you're feeling all the feels. And so they're very kind of analogous just in the written word versus the visual part, which is why it was really cool to now be all part of one company. Because we kind of see the world in the same way, which is bring fans great content.
Yeah, I think something else that's really cool about it is something that Wattpad had been doing for a long time before Webtoon was publishing books by Wattpad authors. So now we're in a space where we have brilliant Webtoon comics that were made for Vertical Scroll, but that are now hitting bookshelves, including like bestsellers like Lore Olympus. And what was that like to be able to bring your experience of doing that at Wattpad and then translating it to Webtoon and the comics medium?
We've worked with some great partners on, you know, you brought up Lore Olympus, which we work with Penguin Random House on, and Hooky with HMH, both New York Times bestsellers, humble brag. But, you know, we have been publishing on Wattpad side for about 3 years, and we started something called the Wattpad WEBTOON book group. Again, clever naming. I know what you're all thinking.
Surprise inspiration.
I mean, I'm a branding expert. I didn't want to brag. It's amazing to be able to now take some of our biggest titles like Tower of God, True Beauty are the first ones. They'll be out in November from Webtoon Unscrolled, which is our graphic novel imprint. You know, bring that passion onto the shelves that fans have and be able to see their things they may have fell in love with Webtoon, and then they get to experience it in a different way. Yeah. They get to experience it laid out as a more traditional graphic novel. And the story's there, the characters they love are there, but you get like a new experience from it. And so it was really amazing to really think about how we take something that is so unique and so powerful in the vertical scrolling method of creation and take it back to the shelves everywhere. So
yeah, I love it. Something that we've talked a lot about when we've talked to David Lee from Webtoon and Marie Javins from DC about that collaboration is this is not a space. Webtoon is not here to take over traditional publishing or traditional comics. It's about expanding the audience. So it's that two-way street of somebody who has read Vertical Scroll and grown up with it might actually have never read a graphic novel or a floppy comic book. So it's brilliant to imagine that we're now going to have this whole new audience of readers going into bookshops and discovering these books in a completely new format. It's really exciting.
Absolutely. And even our creators find it exciting because they did a panel with Miriam, who wrote Hooky yesterday. She just went through the editorial process to get Hooky on shelves, and she was like, oh, this is totally new to me because I basically started doing things on Webtoon. It is really cool to just watch that creative process that goes back and forth, you know, whether, with the DC collaborations and Bat Fam and all that, or if it's us taking some of the biggest hits like Boyfriends and bringing it off platform. Yeah. So it's just that next layer of creativity, which is why our jobs are fun.
Yeah, and you talk about like bringing great content to the fans. Like, what's it been like for you, someone who's been an architect of this project, to then see these books become bestsellers and to see fans in the cosplay and to see fans who are just so excited about Webtoon in all the forms, whether it's on platform, off platform, fan fiction, I'm sure. I know there's a lot of Lore Olympus fan fiction out there.
It exists in so many forms. I think I kind of get goosebumpy when you ask me that question.
Right?
I've been like super fortunate. I started Wattpad many years ago, and every time you think you understand fandom, like a new fandom appears in front of you and you have to learn all over again. So learning about the lore fandom or the Gremlin fandom and just being a part of it all over again, now that we work with the Webtoon side, has been just phenomenal. And it's really humbling. Like, we feel like we have just such a huge responsibility, not just to our creators, of course, but to those fans, that they're going to show up, whether they're seeing something on screen. You know, we're developing Lore Olympus, for example, with the Jim Henson Company, or, you know, even our Wattpad stories that are, you know, being put on screens, things like Float, or, you know, obviously After and A Través de Ventana, our big Spanish film. It's a huge responsibility to make sure that, you know, our fans are going to enjoy it, knowing that it's going to be a little bit different than what they read. So it's always humbling to see the cosplay and know that, like, okay, I see that person and I owe them. And that's like a really cool part of our job, that we know that we work with our audiences, we work with our fandoms, we work with our creators to make the coolest stuff. If you were at Comic-Con, I don't know, 15 years ago, and you asked everyone on the floor what a comic was, they'd go superheroes. And it's so amazing to be able to walk around and see that comic format is now a medium instead of a genre to most people here. And you know, you can see an amazing romance. You know, you can see a comedy. You can see a horror, like I said, like Gremlin. I think that's just so powerful to this medium that I grew up reading, that was very, like, it was just this is the kind of stuff I got to read, to be able to really experience any kind of story you want in this medium. And that is just going to propagate to screens, right? Of course, we all know the big superhero comics keep getting turned into things, but as we see, you know, as example, Lore Olympus, or even, you know, our anime on Crunchyroll, Tower of God, which the fans loved, or so I hear. But, you know, I think it really is, we're seeing this new wave of storytelling, and from these amazing diverse writers from all over the world, they're really going to take over screens and shelves for the next 100 years or so.